knows the value of networking because thanks to this, it became part of the World Heritage List in 2017 with the serial and transnational UNESCO site Venetian works of defense between the 16th and the 17th centuries, which includes Italian, Croatian, and Montenegro cities. The UNESCO creative cities of Alba, Belo Horizonte, Bendigo, Cochabamba, Milan, Östersund, Parma, and San Antonio have honored us by accepting our invitation and are with us this afternoon. A special greeting for Milan, creative city of literature, which accepted the invitation to discuss a theme that is transversal to the 7 clusters of the network of creative cities. Before giving the floor to our honored guests, I would like to thank the institutions, associations, and the businesses of Bergamo, Sondrio, and Lecco provinces, who from the beginning have believed in the Cheese Valleys project and the network of Italian creative cities. They helped us in the application process, and they continue to support us in the reaching of our objectives. I would like to dedicate a few words to my city, also to entice you to visit it and discover its history. No matter how you come within view of Bergamo, its felicitous position at the foot of the hills will by no means escape your notice. The upper city, enclosed by the 16th century Venetian walls, boasts valuable monuments and stunning views. No less interesting is the lower side, with the historical barracks, the 20th century city center, and the new neighborhoods rising from ashes of rundown city areas recently renewed. Bergamo is at the center of a highly industrialized area, ever pushing for innovation. The spike in tourism is a recent development, somehow resulting from the 2008 crisis and the successful territorial policies, which over the past few years have been appealing to a wider European and international public. The Old Town is at the heart of this interest, not least through its architectural and artistic assets. But there is more to it than that. The local cuisine is just an integral to Bergamo's attractiveness as its historical and modern-day treasures. Here is a wealth of award-winning specialties to discover, chiefs of which are its unparalleled cheese. As one of the UNESCO creative cities, Bergamo epitomizes the intersection between the cultural and creative sides of know-how, whose iconic embodiment is the local cheese-making tradition, and know how to be, championed by an environmentally and ethically aware lifestyle, whether in the city or countryside. In an area that is mostly known for its manufacturing expertise, we boast as many as 11 PDO awards, including 9 cheeses, as well as 1 DOCG and 2 controlled designation of origin awards in wine production, 2 PGIs, and over 20 certified agri-food products. This is tangible testimony of a willingness to maintain traditional craftsmanship in the interest of development. Unique, high-quality food products are key to the creation of added value, which lies at the heart of an economy aiming at sustainable growth. The establishment of a culinary district reinforces the role of a cultural and economic sector, which may closely link rising income and employment with improved life quality, both for those working in the industry and for the consumer, who can rely on quality products and a healthier environment. The enhancement of local products, the greater awareness of the role in the building of a sustainable development model, and the jobs created in this industry by breathing new life into mountain settlements make Bergamo a case study to share on a national and international level, pushing for more events like these, where we can pass on knowledge and gain new insights. The title of this summit, Remember the Future, is a pun on the paradoxical relationship between the words remember and future. It is both an encouragement to look ahead with hope, so as to never lose focus on the future, and an invitation to remember our historical and traditional heritage as the backbone of our identity. Between the remembrance of the past and the good wishes for the future is the present. Action is right now, and it's precisely that action that the speaker's talks will revolve around. They are about real life experiences made available for all, success stories in the transition between the past and the future, because they enable us to live hopeful present. Some very concrete action took place yesterday. Alba, Bergamo, and Parma, the three creative cities for Italian cuisine, founded a culinary district with shared goals related to an exchange of knowledge and expertise among directors, associations, enterprises, schools, and universities. It's an operational invitation for mutual discovery and to sharing of good practices. The city of Bergamo wants to showcase a project supported by a diverse territorial network, which has seen in creative cities the best suited player for this role. Awareness of the limits of parochialism moves us to foster cooperation among the most diverse institutions, willing in turn to broaden their horizon to envision partnerships on an international level. The agreement that was signed yesterday confirms it is a widely shared vision. The Creative Cities Network allows participants to share experiences made in a broad range of contexts. It is through varied but converging viewpoints that a profitable exchange of knowledge in the establishment of common projects may successfully take place. The purpose of the city of Bergamo is to facilitate the interplay of creativity in gastronomy, and that typical of other clusters. Milan's participation is only the first step in a journey that will take us together into the future. Knowing the past allows us to set ambitious targets for the future, because by rereading our history, we find countless examples to emulate, by renewing them so as to achieve the most ambitious of goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the Mayor of Bergamo, Giorgio Gori, for his welcome address and the opening remarks. And now the floor goes to Magda Antonioli, Vice President of the European Travel Commission. Hi, Magda.
Hi, good afternoon to everybody. I'm sorry for that stuff I've got here, but I had some troubles with my microphone. So I'm very honored and pleased to participate to the welcome address. Thank you to Dr. Gori, to our Mayor of Bergamo, for this opportunity. European Travel Commission is very committed on culture and creative industries in order to promote Europe versus the rest of the world, and so I'm pleased to say a few words here. Creativity, I start from creativity, I move to tourism, and then I go to the idea of the network, how network is relevant today in order to promote, in order to be committed with such a development. The creativity city has emerged as a development of a concept, a focus on the importance of cultural industries and cultural amenities like key resources, let's say, for livable towns. We do not have to forget that we speak about authenticity. Tourists are looking for the local way of living. That is very relevant, but at the same time, we must think that we should melt together social, culture, institutional point of views, because our basic factors giving contribution to the growth of creativity are right those. So we should take into account our community, our people, and all our reference, creative and culture. What more today than food, wine, agriculture, typical products with their brands? What better than cuisine, which represent also society value? What about itineraries, for example, wine routes, rather than other tourist experience which can be done on the territory? So these towns are really economic winner as far as we understand how we can move. But something is changing also in the post-pandemic, but is very relevant, and tourists are who are the main consumers of our recreational creative products and so on, are really changing. I don't want to speak about recent studies on Generation Z and on people, but we have really changed in consumer patterns, and what we are speaking about, what we are hoping in our culture is so relevant. We are having a paradigmatic, we can say, shift from a massification. Usually we call it the Fordian tourism, and we are moving from, let's say, passive consumption through flexibility, segmentation, active consumption. Well, the new tourist is looking for something new. He wants to try, he wants to use new technologies and so on. He is much more care about environment, all the things that we know and that we are in the recovery plan, just to give an example. But through systems, let's say systemic economics and values, integrated value, we can afford that. So we move from fixed heritage to, let's say, intangible heritage. We move from cultural tourists pushed by to cultural tourism pulled by branding, storytelling, new media, and from a passive contemplation, let's say, of the art and so on, to active experience of co-creation. So we are speaking about that, and in order to conclude, where is the interaction? Which is the strategy? How can we put in practice policies? Well, through the network. From the value chain, now we moved to the value chain. Value chain is very relevant. Networks are essential for identity, for lifestyle, for atmosphere, for all that. Networks are fundamental for growing importance of narrative, transcultural and intercultural phenomenon, which represent what we spoke about. Authenticity, the everyday approach with our territory can be done only and just through the networking. So the idea of local now is what is relevant, opposed to the local, also to the global, but also to the local. Now we are at the local level. So what I want to say is that remembering the future, or back to the future, means match together environment, people, process, product. We will win on that, and we are very strong. So I think it's a very good opportunity for all of us.
Thank you so much, Magda, for your enthusiastic speech. Listening to your voice gives us a lot of energy. And now the floor goes to Vittorio Salmoni. Vittorio Salmoni is the coordinator of the Italian Creative Cities Network. Hi, Vittorio, where are you now? Because you are in Rome, in Torino, in Fabriano, you are everywhere.
I don't know. I have lost my position. No, I am in Rome, and my warm greeting to you, to the Sindaco Gori, the Mayor Gori, to all dear friends in this meeting. My speech will be in Italian language, and I go ahead in Italian.
The Italian coordination of UNESCO Creative Cities was established in 2016, and 1 year ago it was fully implemented and pushed towards a new role played by creative cities in the Italian backdrop. Fabriano has become the coordinator after Bologna, and 1 year ago a very broad-ranging action was started to engage the most important cultural institutions of Italy, starting with the Italian ministries in this field, and then we also extended our relationships at the National Commission of UNESCO, ANCI, the Italian Association of Mayors, and other cultural institutions. At the end of 1 year, next October 28th and 29th in Turin, we'll be carrying out our annual meeting of national coordination to take stock of this very special year of activity, because unfortunately we were heavily hit by the pandemic crisis, but the UCCN network never stopped working, especially in Italy. It was revived even, and I would define this the rebirth of Italian creative cities and their network. This is my third summit. This is the third summit organized by Italian creative cities starting, he said August 2021, I'm not sure. I attended the Biella Carrara and today the Bergamo one. Different perspectives, but same motivation, same objective, to grant a powerful acceleration to creative cities in Italy. Each and every city with its own heritage, its own know-how and culture and stamina can contribute. And it is the most recently nominated cities such as Biella or Carrara that we get an outstanding drive and momentum towards common and future objectives. I'd like to remind all the most recent acquisitions of this network that we started off by analyzing the metropolitan cities. We were considering calls number 8, 9, 11 connected to economic development, innovation, employment, city as a driver for change. We were thinking of a city where most of the population in 50 years would be living, where 70% of the world population would have lived in 50 years' time. So we were focusing mainly on the metropolitan aspect of cities. For some years now, and mainly during and after the pandemic, we actually turned everything upside down and we focused on individuals rather, on local communities, on communities. And as our mayor defined this paradox, this oxymoron, remembering the future, this title, well, summarizes this dimension. First and foremost, this is an individual action that we carry out. So it is the individuals who remember something that will need to belong to our lives. And the video, the opening video, shows the beauties of rural Bergamo. The Italian landscape has plenty of these beauties. And we enter this new dimension, not only at an individual level, but also as a network. So what we focus upon is quality education, goal number 4, gender equality goal number 6, all those connected to the production of energy or the new approach to climate and landscape. In a conversation I had with the Fondazione Pistoletto Friends in Biella, we spoke of the return to pre-modern society, and here we connect very strongly with your themes. The first pivot is an acceleration towards the future, the comeback to ancient cultures, to ancient know-how, and I was a witness of your candidacy, so I took part in the preparation of the file that you used to apply for this nomination. You sort of anticipated this new way of being a part of this network activity. I'd like to remind you that we are not the only ones believing so. We have authoritative partners such as the Satis Biennale. This is an architectural biennial that is taking place in Italy and that draws the attention of the world. Suffice to think of the next exhibition that will be held in Milan, which is a Progetto Paese. It is a down planning exhibition where we'll be speaking about cultural places as the main protagonist of urban regeneration. And please glance through a magazine which is called Urbanistica e Innovazione. I'll be sending excerpts from this magazine to both our mayor and Claudio. Also, the Olivetti Foundation is moving in this direction. It is redefining the concept of community. We are at the heart of a brand new phenomenon, and we set for ourselves objectives that must become more and more accurate, and I'm pretty certain that today's summit participants are doing the same thing in their own country. Having said so, again, I'd like to thank Claudio, our mayor of Bergamo, and I'll be seeing you in Torino for the Coordination Network meeting. Thank you, Vittorio.
Next week in Torino. Franco Bernabé, President of the Italian National Commission for UNESCO, sent us a video with his welcome address.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me thank, first of all, the Mayor of Bergamo, Giorgio Gori, for having promoted the second meeting of the International UNESCO Creative Cities Network and for having interpreted so well through this new initiative the most profound significance of the UNESCO Creative Cities Network, that is bringing together cities that have placed culture and creativity at the center of their sustainable development. The Creative Cities Network is indeed a formidable platform for the exchange of ideas and the meeting of the minds of representatives from 246 cities from more than 80 different countries, a forum for dialogue where different authorities and stakeholders can work together. Italy is now in the position to restart its social and economic life in a safe environment, thanks to the success of the intense and effective vaccination campaign. In this context, it is particularly helpful to focus on urban regeneration in its wider possible meaning. Bergamo is well placed to take the lead. It is definitely an inspiring city, being not only a creative city, but also a World Heritage Site and home of 3 UNESCO chairs. The merits of Bergamo do not stop here. The city has also been appointed European Capital of Culture for 2023 and has received a National Landscape Award with a project focused on biodiversity within the city. It is also worth noting that Bergamo has recently created, together with Alba and Parma, a single Italian gastronomy district that brings together the 3 Italian creative cities for gastronomy. This proves that the city is not only a byword of gastronomic excellence, but is also notable for the protection of the environment ecosystems, and biodiversity. In Bergamo, the cultural heritage brings a fundamental contribution to the overall development for the entire region. Today's event is a clear indication that after having been profoundly affected by the first wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, Bergamo is now moving forward in a very, very concrete form. The summit, Remember the Future, is a perfect blend of culture and creativity, linking together the legacy of history and traditions, the preservation of the heritage of knowledge, and the skills that are transmitted from one generation to another. The summit, while contributing to present the unique variety of the Italian food production, also focuses on fostering international cooperation for reinforcing of the urban-rural links, education, eco-innovation, and the sharing of information on sustainable development in agriculture and food production. The right mix of creativity and scientific and cultural knowledge is fundamental to the process on intertwining old traditions with new digital challenges, new architecture with territorial protection, sustainability and the blue economy with supply chain, internationalization with the protection of quality and cultural identity. The engagement of the creative cities fostered by Bergamo on these challenges will result in a concrete contribution to the achievement of the 17 goals of the 2030 UN Agenda for Sustainable Development, and is very much in line with the priority given by Italy to the interlinkage between culture, creativity, and food since the 2015 Milan Expo and the UNESCO World Forum on Culture and Food held in Parma in 2019. Creativity and the engagement of the network of the UNESCO Creative Cities is much required to find viable solutions to the huge challenge to ensure food security and food safety for a world population that is growing at a very fast rate. The 9 billion human beings that will be living on the planet by 2050 will need to be fed in a sustainable way in terms of environmental resources and impact on climate change. I think that today's event will be contributing to the creation of the right environment that will allow this to happen. Thanks again to Bergamo, thanks to the mayor of Bergamo, thanks to all the participants, and I wish you a fruitful meeting and thanks for your attention.
We're so happy that our National Commission accepted to speak with us today. And now we will be listening Denise Bax from the Secretariat of the UNESCO Creative Cities Network.
Dear colleagues, dear friends, our dear creative cities of gastronomy, it is with great pleasure that I participate in this second edition of the Gastronomy International Summit hosted by the city of Bergamo. I would like to thank the municipality of Bergamo for organizing this international summit to highlight the power of culture and creativity in providing innovative and effective perspectives on how to build sustainable, eco-friendly and future-proof cities of tomorrow, notably during the ongoing trying times caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Designated in 2019 as a creative city of gastronomy, Bergamo has been an active contributor to the UNESCO Creative Cities Network. With its history and culture deeply tied to creativity and food, the city has shown how its cultural and creative assets can be a force for socio-economic growth, environmental sustainability, and urban-rural development. The topic of today's discussion, Remember the Future, is aimed at establishing a platform of reflection and discussion on the role of culture and creativity, in particular food and gastronomy, in building back more resilient and sustainable cities, as well as strengthening collaboration among cities around the world. This theme closely aligns with UCCN's mission and objectives of supporting cities in their urban development processes to achieve the 2030 agenda. The creative cities are innovation hubs, constantly deepening our reflection and innovating our applications on the symbiosis between culture, creativity, sustainable development, competitiveness, and attractiveness. So now let me present to you some examples of how creative cities of gastronomy worldwide have been contributing to foster the exchange and sharing of good practices and experiences. To provide support and concrete solutions to its local creative and cultural sectors, particularly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, in May 2020, Belo Horizonte, Brazil, organized a week-long hackathon-themed solutions for the creative economy. During the hackathon, participants have been presented with specific challenges and scenarios related to the recovery of the creative economy. Based on these scenarios, participants were invited to develop innovative and practical initiatives and projects to address these challenges. In the same spirit, also in May, last San Antonio, United States of America, convened a local food systems summit independent dialogue themed Exploring the Local Food System, Challenges and Opportunities. The aim of this dialogue was to coordinate and initiate a holistic experience sharing platform for organizations and diverse community members to improve the sustainability and resiliency of the city's food systems. The dialogue also intended to identify linkages, overlaps, and gaps between the existing programs related to these topics, as well as to create new synergies and partnerships at the city level. Finally, in October 2020, Parma, a creative city of gastronomy, organized the Excellence of Made in Italy and the Recovery of the Territories Symposium. It explored the synergies and interactions between different creative fields such as gastronomy and textile crafts, as well as their role in the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. Through this discussion platform, Parma contributed to nurturing creative synergies between member cities and leveraging the value of Made in Italy. Above were just a few examples of how creative cities are deepening our collective reflection around building sustainable cities of tomorrow, proactively taking the pandemic as an opportunity for more urban resilience. Bringing together 9 creative cities of gastronomy, the present International Gastronomy Summit will also contribute to the exchange and sharing of different future-oriented perspectives and solutions. Hereby, I would like to thank once again the city of Bergamo for organizing this event, as well as participating cities and guests for your valuable insights and experiences. Grazie.
We used to be 2, now we are 3, because with us is now Pier Cristiano Brazzale, President of the International Dairy Federation, and we are so happy that we can stay together and speak with our friends all over the world. So, Pier Cristiano, we are really interested in listening to your greetings.
Okay, thank you very much. I will speak in English. I didn't know, but I try to speak in English. So I thanks the measure of Bergamo for the invitation in this fantastic gem of architectural, and is really fantastic, and is full of history and tradition. History and tradition that are the characteristic of our PDO cheeses in Italy. You know, in Italy we have more than 50 PDO cheeses, and that represent our history and our tradition. I love the slogan and the title of this conference, Remember the Future, but I would like to add, remember the future, building strong roots on the past. So tradition and history are very important, but we must consider that all the forecasts, by 2050, we will have more than 10 billion people in the world. So we must produce more feed, around 50–70% more feed in the world, but guaranteeing the sustainability. So what is the work we are doing as international organizations? I had the honor to represent the dairy sector in the Food System Summit in Rome, the press summit in July, and in New York in final of September. And we are discussing how to produce this food in the next 30 years. We are following, obviously, we must reach the 17 SDGs by United Nations that are till 2030, but obviously will be prolonged to 2050, will be changed a little bit, and we are following 5 action tracks. These 5 action tracks, I read, are ensuring access to safe and nutritious food for all, shifting to sustainable consumption patterns, boosting nature-positive production at sufficient scale, advancing equitable livelihoods and value distribution, building resilience to vulnerabilities, shocks, and stress. So you understand that these 5 action tracks have only one key word that link all the 5, is sustainability. Sustainability must be guaranteed at all levels. You know, sustainability has 3 legs. It is social, economical, and environmental sustainability. And the work we are doing is a strong work in the part of environment. Part of environment, we are working a lot technically to guarantee all the processes are made in environmental sustainable systems. And what are these, for only to remember, we must guarantee and apply digital technology, precision farming, intensive farming, because one solution also promoted by FAO is intensive farming, not extensive farming. Applying system of agriculture, regenerative agriculture. So that's very important. It's a change of mind on how to produce. Extensive farming is not the right way. And also, for example, we are discussing and also in improving on genetics of the varieties used in crops and also in zootechnical. So that's a really important to accept new methodologies for example, genome editing is very important to accept. So all the international organizations, also the ideologist international organizations are accepting a new view to apply also new technologies on genome. And also it's very important to apply all the principles of the circular economy. So we are working a lot to define methodologies, to define guidelines to apply the circular economy along the entire dairy chain in processing animal protein, but also vegetable protein. So this is the view, and we are really working a lot in the international organization to guarantee to produce in sustainable manner this 50–70% more feed that we will need in 2050.
Thank you. Thank you, Pier Cristiano, and welcome, Ambassador. Welcome, Massimo Riccardo, Ambassador of the Permanent Representative of Italy to UNESCO.
Buongiorno.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to everyone. Please let me say some words in Italian before starting. Signor Sindaco, buongiorno, ben trovato.
Dear Mayor, welcome, and thank you very much for your invitation, and thank you for this initiative.
The receipt proposed to us by the title of this day's event is both timely and appropriate. Timely because it sums up the essence of healthy way of looking to the future, the ability to project our tradition, our history, and our culture forward so that they become the raw material for building the new normal. This ensures consistency and credibility, but above all, it ensures the transfer of knowledge, which is essential for any growth projects. Appropriate, because we have the duty to look ahead and to look forward with optimism. After this unprecedented phase, our duty is now to play an active role in the common effort to define what we call the normal, the new normal. To do this, we must have the courage to look to the future with optimism, the courage of the visionary. And if we want to be effective in this attempt to imagine and to shape our future, we have to build on our past. The pandemic has shown us dramatically how important it is to have a solid foundation, and we can find it only in our history, in our traditions. But the pandemic has shown us also that the same challenges can only be overcome if we are united and if we have the ability to be visionary, the courage to go behind the ordinary. We can find all this in UNESCO Creative Cities program, where culture could become as a springboard for creativity, tradition, as an engine for innovation. UNESCO and its network of creative cities can play a crucial role in this respect and in helping us to transit to the new normal. We have a team, the strong network of our cities. We have a common strategy, our creativity and our ability to be visionaries. We have a common goal to promote the sustainable development of our societies, having in mind our common goal of the 2030. Italy has constantly brought these messages to the attention of UNESCO, in particular this year in the context of the Italian presidency of the G20, which has put cultural and creative economies for the first time at the center of the international discussion as a main component of the post-pandemic economic and social recovery. So, the creative cities of gastronomy as a food for the restart, and many thanks to the city of Bergamo for offering us all this, and thanks to the other creative cities for sharing this journey. I would like to conclude my intervention by congratulating the Mayor of Bergamo for this very important and very visionary initiatives. I wish to hold your fruitful and successful meeting with the hope that this third edition will take place entirely in presential. Quindi veramente un caro saluto e speriamo di vederci presto.
So my dearest gratitude and thank you very much, hoping to meet you in person.
Paris to Australia. Trevor, is the night sweet in Bendigo? Are you with us? No. Hi, Trevor. You work until late the night. You are very creative and also a little bit crazy, I think. Trevor Baggia is a Strategic Projects Officer of the city of Greater Bendigo. And Bendigo is obviously a city of gastronomy. And we work together quite often in strange hours of the day and of the night. So let's talk us about your theme, a journey in 3 parts, from Jaja Vurung, I don't know, but you can explain us, to Epicurus, to the Sustainable Development Goals. Very, very creative, Trevor. We are very curious about your speech.
Thank you so much, and greetings from Australia, where it's now past midnight. So it's already Saturday morning. Thank you very much to the City of Bergamo for hosting this event and organising. And I would like to particularly congratulate you on the theme, because it is very applicable, and hopefully my talk will explain how it is a journey in 3 parts for our city. I'm now going to share my screen. Hopefully this is going to work.
As usual, Zoom, Google Meet, Teams, every time is a challenge, sharing images and so on. Is everything okay, Trevor?
Is that working?
No, it's not.
It's not working?
It's not working yet.
Ah, okay. Not sure what's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
It might be that you
It's
need
working
to share
now. It's working now.
Working
No?
now? Yeah, okay, so everyone can see that. So, a journey in 3 parts. I'm going to particularly talk about the Djadja The Djadja were the original inhabitants of the Bendigo region, and we can now trace their history back at least 33,000 years. I'm not sure whether people know the story of Aboriginal people in Australia, but we had about 250 clans or tribes across Australia, each speaking different languages, and the Djadja were the inhabitants of the area where Bendigo now is, and the region that the Djadja embraced was about 17,000 square kilometres, so it's a large region. You'll notice our UNESCO Creative City logo, and I'm going to spend some time talking about that logo. But first of all, to just give you a bit of background about our region of gastronomy and what we call our 4 pillars. First of all, we want to celebrate that First Nations culture, their creativity and knowledge, and I'll talk about that. We recognise that we are a creative city, a city of cultural diversity and innovation. We have a very strong journey in terms of our gastronomy of trying to improve people's health and through local nutritious food. And we particularly want to prioritise a sustainable environmental approach based on agriculture and food production, particularly in an era of climate change. And each of those 4 pillars is integrated with our food production, our preparation, and our consumption. So to our 3 parts of our sustainability journey. As I've indicated, the Djadja have lived on country for many years, and they have what's called a 6 seasons approach to food production. It's based on the idea that you take from the environment what you need, and if the circumstances of the environment are such that you can't take everything that you need, you adjust the way you operate, which I think is a bit different to the way in which Westerners have traditionally looked at the environment. You keep taking. The Djadja adjust what they do, and they recognise that they have a long-term goal of ensuring that their environment is sustainable, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. The reference to Epicurus on the 24th, in May 2022, we are holding the 24th Symposium of Australian Gastronomy in Bendigo. Its theme is Reclaiming Happiness, the Epicurean Garden, Simple Pleasures and a Sustainable Future. The Greek philosopher Epicurus talked that really the way in which we need to live our lives is very simple, and that again we should take from the environment what we need and live that simple life. We think this is a very good metaphor for rethinking our materialistic ways, challenging the inevitability of human-made climate change. Through our 4 pillars, we are approaching the Sustainable Development Goals of the Unesco. What I'd like to do now, and I understand that this video will be played by the organisers. Please let me tell you, please tell me if that's not the case, because I'll try and play it from here, but it might be difficult. Is that going to be played for me by the organisers? Can you let me know?
Yes, it's going. The video
we
is going
believe
now.
there are 6 seasons, with plants and animals being indicators for these seasons. Some examples of this are Barramull, the emu. This is often from December to March. This is the period where Barramull will pair up and lay their eggs. Nari time, duck time. This is normally around April. The Nari begin their courtship and nest making. This is also the time to find Murnon, the yam daisy. Waikalk time, golden wattle time. This is May to June, and this is the time when wattle blooms and we can make wooden tools such as datum datum, or the boomerang. Gatchin time, water time. This is June to August. This had usually been a time of water abundance and when waterholes would fill and creeks and rivers would overflow. Lawan and Murnon time. This is from September through October and is the time for collecting the seeds and tubers from plants such as the Murnon, the yam daisy, to create breads. It is also the time that Lawan, the mallee fowl, has created their nests and laid their eggs. Lastly, there is Wirrup and Giranal, cotton perch time. This is from November into December. This is the time when fish lay their eggs and kangaroo grass seed is available to harvest. Murnon, Waikalk, Guri, Lawan, Wirrup. These examples are all essential foods and fibres for the Dja people.
So that was Drew Berwick. Drew was one of the authors or one of the creators of our gastronomy logo, one of two creators from the Dja Rung. And the concept of our logo is that we have 6 seasons represented by the 6 circles, and each of those is a different colour. And you can see that the circle has actually been broken, and this symbolises the European occupation. What we're trying to do now is heal the country, restore a sustainable approach to land, and actually bring that circle together. The more detailed explanation is on this slide. So they are concentric rings because they represent a never-ending cycle. So this is a circular economy approach. Each year, it gives birth to a new year. Each of the colours represent things like water, land, plant life, animals, people, connection. And the wedge is this symbolism of closing the gap, an aspiration to eliminate the difference between our Aboriginal people and wider Australia, as well as that disruption in the fragile structure of our ecosystem since European arrival and our commitment to heal this together going forward. The Dja Rung talk about healing the country. So a little bit of background on Bendigo. Where is Bendigo and what is its history? So we are located in the southeast of Australia. Map of Australia there, a large continent, continental island. We're close to Melbourne. We're 150 kilometres north of Melbourne. Distances are long in Australia, so 150 kilometres is actually considered a fairly short distance. So we are a city of 120,000 people, and we share our background with 3 other cities in Victoria, in the state of Victoria. Melbourne is a city of literature, Ballarat is a city of craft and folk art, and Geelong is a city of design. And a little bit like what you've done with Alba, Palmer and Bergamo, we formed our own network of 4 creative cities in the state of Victoria. So our Dja Rung country, and you can see Bendigo in there, so that area there represents about 17,000 kilometres. The distance from north to south is around about 160 kilometres. So it's a large region, but this is the tribal area of the Dja Rung, and we've based our region, our city and region, on that tribal area. So of course, the Dja Rung, in a sense, farmed the land. There are a number of ways they did that. They actually burnt areas so that they exposed pasture for hunting kangaroo and hunting emu. They also, as has been indicated, grew a lot of crops, which I'll talk about in a minute. One of the legacies of the occupation of the land by the Dja Rung was what we call scar trees. So these were trees where shields, and in some cases even canoes, were cut out of trees. And we can see the remnants of these right across the landscape. Drew talked about the Murnong, the yam daisy. Before European occupation, large areas were covered with what is known as kangaroo grass, which is a perennial grass which grew to about 1 metre high. At the moment, the Dja Rung are experimenting in planting out large areas of the region in kangaroo grass with the idea of making bread from kangaroo grass. It's a much more resilient grass than wheat, and it looks as though it's much better suited to an era of climate change. The yam daisy was, the Murnong is the equivalent of the local yam, and we know that vast fields were covered with these yellow daisy flowers, and that Aboriginal women tended these areas and turned what was an annual plant into a perennial plant. So this background of Aboriginal occupation was massively disturbed in 1851 when gold was discovered in Bendigo. And these gold rushes were unlike anything seen in the world. The scale of the rushes, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. And there were certainly, we know that there were people from Italy came to the gold rushes, but it was mainly from the UK, also from Germany, but many people came from China and even from the Californian rushes. So they transformed the country very quickly. 10 years after the discovery of gold in Bendigo, this is what the sort of landscape that had been created by the mining. Fortunately, we've managed to restore that country, although much of that is now built out with houses, but the mines have gone, but there is still gold mining taking place, but it's a much more industrial process and confined to single sites rather than being extensive across the landscape. But what the gold did was build an amazing legacy of a city. And so we have a very strong Victorian architecture heritage in Bendigo, and many buildings are of this scale and appearance. And in fact, we are working with a number of municipalities in the region to try and attain World Heritage listing of the goldfields area. And so other examples of buildings that were built, former post office and law courts. So these were typical of the structures that were built in the late 1800s. So, a little bit more on our 4 pillars, because these 4 pillars represent our attempts to implement the Sustainable Development Goals. So our first pillar is about our connection to country. It's about a sustainable food system, which is actually thousands of years old. What we're trying to do is rediscover that system and understand it and implement it as part of our current culture and operation of our food systems. Our second pillar goes to the idea that people from around the world have come to our city and region. In fact, we're a very diverse culture, and that innovation and creativity has had to be applied to what were really new landscapes and environments for people who had no familiarity with the way in which the Australian environment operates, which is a very harsh, hot environment, and which water is a very precious ingredient. Our third pillar is to tackle what we know is a chronic disease across most Western cultures, and that's a lot of poor eating, a lot of obesity. So what we're really doing is promoting nutritious, locally grown and sourced food, and seeing food much more as a social connection, which is vital for our communities. We have just recently adopted a very important food strategy to try and implement some of those ideas. The fourth pillar really goes to the heart of the Unesco, of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So how can we rebuild our sustainable local food systems in an era of climate change, which will be hotter and drier? That's going to require creativity and collaboration. Now let's shift to Epicurus. As I indicated, we are holding the 24th Symposium of Australian Gastronomy. It's never been held in Bendigo before. We've managed to secure the event because we are a city, Australia's only city of gastronomy. We have created an event called Gastronomy Week, which will have the symposium, we'll have our major celebratory dinner, and then we have the Bendigo Writers' Festival, which will celebrate its 10th anniversary, and it will have a very strong gastronomy theme. So what we're trying to do with our 24th Symposium of Gastronomy is to rethink our materialistic way. I think the pandemic has enabled us, has allowed us, has challenged us to face the issues of climate change, because it's really actually a bigger problem, climate change, and the acknowledgement that actually less is more, that we can live more in accord with nature, but by taking less from nature. And Epicurus, for those who are not aware of Epicurus, lived before Christ. He was a Greek philosopher. He founded the Epicurean system. And that message is that to learn to be content with what satisfies our fundamental needs while renouncing what is superfluous. So hence the theme of our symposium, Reclaiming Happiness, the Epicurean Garden, Simple Pleasures and Sustainable Future. So this is how we are remembering the past and looking towards the future. So we would welcome anyone who wants to come to our Gastronomy Week, to our symposium, to the dinner, to our Writers' Festival. We are working on how we're going to make some of those events live, so people from around the world will be able to link into it. And we would welcome anyone from any part of the world who wants to join with us. And if you want to link into what we're doing in Bendigo, a very simple website, bendigogastronomy.com.au, and you can also sign up to our newsletter. And our Creative Cities Officer, Dr. Anna Knight, would be welcome anybody who wants to join with us. So with that, I will.
Thank you, Trevor. Thank you. I think that everybody is checking his agenda to be in Bendigo next May, and Parma is a little bit closer than Bendigo, so it's easier to get there. And I think that Cristiano Casa, Deputy Mayor for the UNESCO project of the municipality of Parma, can explain us why we should go to Parma and discover the meaning of the Remember the Future in Parma. Your speech is about food city design. Really interesting.
Yes, first of all, thank you, Claudio, and I would like to thank the Mayor of Bergamo, Giorgio Gori, and all the team for having organized this summit, which give us the chance also to see our friends from the UNESCO Creative Cities. I will speak about the project we developed in Parma, which involves also other cities, creative cities, of course, of gastronomy. In the vision of remembering the future, the municipality of Parma and the University of Parma have started the planning of the Master in Food City Design. The competitiveness of a country depends on its human capital, and today's skills need to be continuously renewed to counteract the rapid obsolescence of knowledge. Training must provide new and innovative cultural models capable of responding to the major challenges we face and the opportunity offered by foreseeable, possible and preferable futures, also following the approach of the so-called futures literacy. Knowledge and learning are humanity's greatest renewable resources for responding to challenges and inventing alternatives. Yet education does more than respond to a changing world. Education transforms the world. Bringing together all the skills acquired as a smart city, it was possible to arrive at the answer, at the awareness that in order to build a sustainable strategy of urban and territorial development, it is necessary to be able to deal with change. It is no longer possible to think only in local terms, but it is necessary to aspire to the internationalization of urban realities. The International Master of Food in Food City Design, in this perspective, aims to train urban designers specialized in food, able to address the issue of urban regeneration and growth, having as main reference the legacy of Expo 2015. It is a postgraduate training program dedicated to the theme of strategic design of food cities. Students will become professionals of food culture, management, organization, able to create strategies for future-proof cities. Food cities are all those cities that give the theme of food culture a crucial role in their development. Food connects all urban and peri-urban areas, and we see today here in Bergamo. When we talk about food, we refer to cultural, social, economic, touristic, environmental processes. In many cities, the food and nutrition sector is central to university research and the crux of scientific innovation. The focus on food cities depends on the fact that cities, where half of the world's population resides, play a strategic role in the development of sustainable food systems and the promotion of healthy diets. And that although different from each other, all cities constitute centers of economic, political and cultural innovation and manage extensive public resources, infrastructures, investments and expertise. The strategic role becomes even more important if we consider that more than 50% of the world population currently lives in urban areas, a proportion that is projected to increase to almost 70% by 2015. The term design applied to city means being aware of the present and imagining a future in which to realize one's idea. The Master represents one of the most important projects of Parma as a UNESCO Creative City of Gastronomy. The UNESCO network responds to the need to bring together geographically and culturally distant realities that must speak a common language in order to understand and share objectives and strategies. The UNESCO Secretariat has expressed the need to undertake collective efforts to increase the research capacity of the network, sharing the work done and the experience acquired at the city level, as well as collecting, analyzing and sharing good practices and data that emphasize the role of culture and creativity in sustainable urban development. The Master responds to these needs by putting in system and at the service of the network the skill not only of Parma, but also of the creative city of Östersund, Bergen and Denia. Moreover, on the occasion of the conference Food and Water in Arid Lands, Dialogues Across Scientific and Traditional Knowledge, organized by the city of Tucson in November 2016, Parma, together with the cities of Tucson, Ensenada and Gaziantep, was the promoter of a specific guidelines for cities of gastronomy adopted by all the cities of gastronomy at the annual meeting in Enghien-les-Bains in June 2017. In the guidelines, a strong focus on the academic sphere and the themes of training and research emerge. The Master in Food City Design responds to all these needs and proposes itself as a platform for international collaboration. The candidates trained by the Master will be indispensable resources for the design of cities that intend to orient themselves towards the future in a global key. As I was saying, the Master in City of Design, in Food City Design, lasting 1 year, aims at training food city designers, project managers, able to develop cities through the paradigm of food. The municipality of Parma is a promoter and an active subject of the Master and welcomes in this first edition 3 interns involved in particularly relevant projects for Parma Creative City. A first intern, he works alongside the focal point of Parma UNESCO City of Gastronomy, and it is specifically responsible for the design and implementation of the Young Food Creatives Contest. A new generation of creatives is reinforcing its role in society, redefining its profession and reaching an even wider sphere of influence. These young food creatives use their knowledge, entrepreneurship and creativity to be part of a real social transformation. The Young Food Creatives Contest was created to celebrate this evolution and the scope of this phenomenon in which gastronomy has become a powerful force for change, drawing inspiration from international awards such as the Basque Culinary World Prize, which selects those who can demonstrate how gastronomy can be a powerful tool for exchange. The project is a part of the planning of Parma reasoning on the city as an interdisciplinary platform or gastronomy hub, a place of sharing and participation in which skills, resources, good practices and gastronomic experiences play a key role in the formation of an open and accessible city equipment system. The second intern is in charge of the implementation of a local development track and consequent study on the hypothesis of the candidacy of an Italian city as a UNESCO Creative City of Gastronomy. The intern is therefore responsible for the preparation of a dossier of reconnaissance of the existing situation and the design proposal to be submitted to the, and therefore as to prepare a document able to demonstrate the steadfast commitment of the city towards the implementation of the UCCN mission statement, both at local and international level, and renew the engagement of the city through the presentation of an action plan for the following 4 years. In this way, the three interns approach the world of creative cities, setting themselves as a urban designers specialized in food, able to address the issues of urban regeneration and growth, operating in the framework set by 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and Remember the Future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Cristiano, for your very, very smart presentation. We have been during the night in Australia, in Italy in the afternoon, and now, good morning, bom dia, Belo Horizonte from Brazil. Darklane, are you with us?
Olá, bom dia, boa tarde também para você.
Good morning or good afternoon for you. What time is it there?
Aqui, bom dia.
Well, here is still morning, so we say good morning here.
Undersecretary for Food Security and
Undersecretary for Food Security and Nutrition from Belo Horizonte.
Talk us about feeding a better future, sustainable, agroecological and healthy metropolitan food systems. Very strong theme. Are you speaking it in English or in wonderful Brazilian Portuguese?
Okay. Obrigada. Já inicio
I'm going to speak in Portuguese. Thank you. I would really like to thank you for your invitation. And I'm going to share my experience from the Belo Horizonte municipality. I would like to thank the municipality of Bergamo, more specifically, for organizing this very powerful and important dialogue space for the future. And I'm going to ask my colleague Anna to help me with my presentation. That will show you our experience, an experience that is looking towards the future. So I would like to take stock of what we have already and share our plans for the future. We've had a policy in terms of food safety in Belo Horizonte for 28 years. And if we think about the future and sustainable and agroecological future food systems, well, the public sector and the public policy are key in those processes. In general, as consumers, we are actors as well as producers, researchers, traditional knowledge holders. We all make up food systems that connect the farmer, the field, and people living in urban areas. So in Belo Horizonte, we had 28 years of public policy aimed at fostering this connection between our 2.5 million inhabitants consuming food and the whole state of Minas Gerais, as well as farmers. Since 2006, we have a national law in Brazil giving guidelines when it comes to food safety policy. Before that legislation, we had other acts, whereas today we have this legislation that is very important and that gives us a recommendation about the food system. Our food system policy is based upon the quantity and the quality of food, and at the same time it prescribes that we have to consider sustainability, food culture, and all economic implications when it comes to having public investments. So we really have to very well define our food system. We have a federal legislation, as I said, and Belo Horizonte works upon a concept that is based on this reconnection between consumers and farmers or producers. We discuss all topics about climate impact or the use of urban spaces that can be used to produce food. We connect our public parks and our protected areas with the surrounding community. We share our resources. We try to reduce pollutants, and all this contributes to increasing the resilience of the territory, protection of biodiversity, social justice, and innovation. And in this context, inclusion and social justice are key, because we are talking about a large city, 2.5 million inhabitants. And this topic becomes very important. We look towards the future. We think about new generations, sustainability, but at the same time, we also try to face urgent challenges. In this framework of public policies aimed at fostering sustainable and agri-ecological food systems, Belo Horizonte also takes care of vulnerabilities that we have. And I'm going to share with you some data about the various projects that the municipality has been developing during those 28 years of history. These are projects that were managed by various authorities, because we are in partnership with the universities as well. In Brazil, the civil society can have a control, and they play an active role. Social security and food security are topics that connect many sectors of public policies, as well as universities and the civil society. So we formed a network, an integrated network aimed at carrying out those programs. In Belo Horizonte, we have some strategies based on consumption as well as food aid in order to fight against food insecurity. And in the 90s, in Belo Horizonte, we created a program with low-income restaurants. So we have 4 restaurants and 1 cafeteria, and we offer over 2.75 million subsidized meals per year. We have 684 educational programs, as well as social assistance and citizenship units. We offer over 92 million meals every year. Our aim is also that of reducing food waste. Private companies that distribute food, such as supermarkets, are involved in this program. We have a food bank, and therefore food is given by those companies and is distributed and is donated to those who need it. In this way, we reduce food waste. And the food that can no longer be marketed is analyzed by food experts who realize and validate it, and then it can be donated. Then we have various programs. Over the last few years in Brazil, we carried out some strategies aimed at opposing the consequences of low-income situations. I mean, there are some poor families who do not have sufficient income, and these are the most vulnerable families. That's why now we have an emergency food and nutrition assistance program that is a subsidy, an amount of money that is given to families so that they can buy food. During the pandemic, as is evident, many shops were closed, and the most vulnerable families were strongly impacted. Therefore, during the whole period of the pandemic, we organized the delivery of food baskets. Over 2 million baskets were delivered to families in 2020, and over 4 million were delivered during last year and this year in order to remedy the impact of poverty and the pandemic. And we also have a financial aid, and over 380,000 families will be assisted for 6 months to face the emergency. This is a sustainable and inclusive system. So we have those emergency actions. However, we also need to think on how to resume economic activities while ensuring inclusiveness and the protection of nature. This is why we strengthened our actions aimed at increasing market access through open fairs, organic fairs, healthy food fairs, markets that attract farmers coming from other municipalities surrounding Belo Horizonte. And these projects are that important for the period, and 64 tons of food was bought from family-run agricultural enterprises. And then we also have some initiatives such as Sacolões and Abastecer. Some farmers receive special aid from the public authorities so that they can sell their products at a lower price to poor families. Apart from those projects, that is direct assistance to the most vulnerable people and access to market, and apart from public policy investments that were carried out, Belo Horizonte is also a creative food city with education and training initiatives. Over 10,000 people were trained and are trained every year so that in the future children and adolescents will take advantage of those initiatives. Schools are used, and art is also used as a tool to carry out initiatives and promote cultural change among children and adolescents. Many initiatives are carried out to promote a dialogue with the citizens, and Belo Horizonte offers information and education in many food sectors, such as confectionery, baking, in Brazil and all over the world. The gastronomy of Minas Gerais is very well known. And of course, everything is also based upon entrepreneurship and agroecology. In Belo Horizonte, we have many projects based on agroecology. Growing food in urban areas seems to be something bizarre. However, we talked with many stakeholders and with the civil societies in order to devote certain areas to agriculture. So we are actually producing food in some areas that were not taken advantage from in the past. Here you can see a picture in an area, in a vulnerable area of the Sun. We have 43 community production units involving the local community in this strategy aimed at producing healthy food and respecting the environment. Moreover, Belo Horizonte has 105 school production units, school gardens, or institutional gardens. This is also something that promotes dialogue. Moreover, in Belo Horizonte, we have some strategies aimed at developing some vulnerable areas. And agroecology plays a key role to develop those vulnerable areas. And as a city with 2.5 million inhabitants, we couldn't avoid having a relationship with the surrounding municipalities. This dialogue is key because food systems do not only involve a single municipality. Strategies have to be formulated with national guidelines. That's why Belo Horizonte cooperates with the surrounding municipalities through a strategy to certify food production. In Belo Horizonte, we have a very intense dialogue with over 15 municipalities. There is this network of public policy stakeholders as well as farmers, federal and state authorities. And in this way, we produce knowledge and cooperate, and we ensure help and support so that people can actually live in an area where healthy food is produced and sustainable agroecological food systems are promoted for the future. We have to create our future now so that in the medium or long term, more progress can be made, and in large urban areas, we can live in a sustainable way. Sustainability should be inclusive. The most vulnerable should also be included, and there must be a dialogue between countryside and urban areas. I would like to thank Bergamo and the organizers for this invitation, for having given me the opportunity to have this important dialogue with the other cities. Thank you for sharing your experiences as well. Thank you.
Obrigado, Darklane. Muito obrigado, da Belo Horizonte. E agora, now we are going to Sweden, where Dag is the focal point of Östersund, is also an international strategist and project coordinator of the international projects region of Jämtland Gerdalen. I know that I'm not pronouncing it right, but it's not a problem because we are friends. And Dag Hartman is going to talk us about Back to the Future. Hi, Dag.
Hello, and hello, Bergamo. And this is the second time I am attending this workshop. I was here last year, and last year I talked about my city and my region and the possibilities. So this year I have a little other approach, and I will share my screen, and I will try to share my screen here, and then can you see anything?
You can.
Could you see it? Yes. Okay, there it is. Yes.
Yeah.
I will go on and talk briefly. You have a great theme of this conference. Remember the future. But for me, it's more like sitting and thinking. I want some more action. So I made a little alteration of then and called it Back to the Future. With a question mark, also some actions inside it. Can we go back to the future? And in that case, how do we have to think about that? And so I will be give an overview of that, and also talk about it. We talk a lot about traditions and going back, and that is actually working with traditional knowledge, which is a concept in its own. But first, we are entering soon the post-COVID world, and build back better is on everybody's agenda. And from our UNESCO top level, they say the pandemic, and it comes to food, the pandemic has highlighted the fragility of our food system. Food is now regarded as something else than just food, is something else, and we are very. We work a lot to try to support our small producers and workers in the sector and our companies, and we have also found out that our food systems are quite fragile, and they need to be restored to more robust and resilient to safeguard food value chains. So something has happened. So there is another way of looking at food from before the pandemic and now. So, and then we come into this discussion. I know my friend in Bendigo, Trevor, talked about working with the Yadja Burung clan, and there is also a lot of other talk of using the old knowledge for benefit for the future. And just to make it clear, tradition, it has this definition, and I did some research on it, and I went back to the Convention on Biological Diversity, which is the basis for the UNESCO Creative Cities to work with. And by definition, traditional knowledge is innovations and practice of indigenous and local communities around the world. And how is it? It's gained experience or gained over centuries. It's transmitted orally, collectively owned and mainly of practical nature. That is the basis for how to see this on the traditional knowledge. And of course, we have our share in my city, in my region. I'm the focal point of Östersund in North Sweden, and also work for the region of Jämtland Härjedalen, and you did a good try to pronounce it, so no worries. And we are a sparsely populated region. We have a lot of nature. We have artisan food, which we build a lot of our development in Östersund. It's very clean, it's very local, and it's carefully processed. And that's the sort of a definition of sustainable food. So that's the farming side of what we build our products and our around. But we also have, okay, I can't share the next.
It's not working now.
Now it's working. Now it's working.
Yeah. Great, Dag.
Okay, but our traditions also is built on our First Nation, the Sami people, which are reindeer herd. We have been reindeer herders for at least 1,000 years. So we build it partly on the farming and the traditions from the farming, but also from the reindeers and the nature and berries and everything. So that's our tradition. And then, of course, we have producers that use this excellent raw material to produce good food, which we then could put in the hands of our chefs that goes around the world and showcasing this in different show cookings. And here are all from Mediterranean to Brazil, in Belém to Macau, our chefs that has been show cooking from our productions. But something has happened. And when we talk about the sector here, the culture and creative industry, which includes food and gastronomy in most of these definitions around the world, something has happened, because now in Europe, we have new signals of how important the creative sector of, and you include it in this in different programs. And we have the new European Bauhaus concept, which I frankly don't really understand yet, but it's a way to promote culture and creative industry to meet the challenge we have in the future, food and culture together. And actually, I have seen also references that to work with the creative industry is essential to reach the goals of the green transformation of the future for Europe. So it's quite serious. And we also have some quotes from our EU Commissioner Maria Gabriel for Culture, Education and Youth, also saying this sector are Europe's heart and soul. It inspires both our diversity and unity, inspire us to innovate. So there's something has happened, and the references to the COVID-19 and how should we use this to proceed in what will come after the pandemic is over. And where does this position us, the creative cities? Here we are currently 246 UNESCO creative cities. In a week or two, we might be 346, who knows? There is new applications out for assessment. We work in 7 different genres. And here you can see how well we are scattered all over the world, all these creative cities. And if you look at to the top of, you see a little green dot. That is the most northern creative cities of the world, and that is my city, Östersund, for your reference. But where does it position us? Well, we are 246 cities working in exactly the bull's eye of what is expected for the future in this new development. We work within the global strategy, the 2030 agenda, where I used to say we have a lot of specialties and skills in our cities. And this is actually our gift to the world. We have some different skills in different cities, but together we have a great skills to give to the world for the future development. And in our group, the creative cities, the gastronomy cities, cities of gastronomy in the UCCN. We have, as I think it was Cristiano that talked about the priorities we have. Here there are the priorities we are working with. And this could represent the challenges we have in our cities in different fields: communication, tourism, traditional knowledge, education. And as I see it, when our challenges in our city meets the potential and the skills we have in cities, when they meet, we can form great initiatives and projects that could develop our cities in a really good way. But back to the traditional knowledge that we think we are going to work with and base our future development on. And it's interesting to reflect on it. I agree that we have a lot of good things to look back, to remember, to work with. But for my reflection, I have working with it for many years. It's not that easy just to take them into action and do something with it. And I have listed 3 different reflections that I think it's just like questions. It's possibly doable, but we have to reflect on it. And the first one, if traditional knowledge is easily available. And from my experience, it's not that quite easy to get, because mostly it sits in people, in brains in people, and is not like a library. There's not like internet you can just Google and you find it. It sits in brain tissue in people, and that is not so easy to get to. And you can think then you think, but everything is documented in books and in libraries. Well, it's not well documented at all. And this is a lecture in itself. I will not go deeper into that, but it's not really easily available. You have to think what we are doing. And then the second one is this knowledge relevant in a modern context? Yeah, I can't really answer it. I used to say it was, but now our knowledge, traditions and knowledge is built in a world which didn't change so much. And then it was sort of constant over time. But now we have changed the environment so much, so I'm not so sure that it's relevant anymore in a modern context when we have changed the nature to the degree that we really have. And the third one, if it's available, if it's relevant, how will we combine it with our modern science and technology into powerful new initiatives and projects to solve a lot of problems? It's not that easy that either, because then you come to just one thing: who owns the traditions, who owns the knowledge? Can big companies make money of it? But from orally acquired and experiences, and we come into money and patent. It's not that easy to actually to work with, and I think Bendigo and Trevor could agree with me that needs a lot of discussion and agreements to make it fair in different ways. So I will just conclude now with two different initiatives from my region, one old one and a new one. Our old one is Eldrimner. It is the small-scale artisan food training in a national institute in Sweden, just in our region, where we train farmers and other producers to refine their recipes and their products in a technical way and be good entrepreneurs in the food sector. Works very well, and it's a good example that works well, that has supported the business in my country and also the economy linked to tourism. And then I will finish with one other project, totally different, called the Duved Village Development. Duved is a village, a small village with about 1,000 to 2,000 inhabitants, where there has been established a national project with a lot of stakeholders, our top universities, a lot of funding, a lot of private enterprises, together to work to try to develop a model for a new sustainable society, which in the sphere of circular economy. That works from the bottom-up perspective with the local actors' experiences and ideas. And you can see the nature is really nice. It's very rural, but it's also very close to to transportation and to other economic hotspots. But anyway, it works in a way that it will make a model of how to develop a circular economy in the rural areas, which for many now are the future. The future are not in the cities anymore. The future are in the rural areas and the assets we have there. And they work with a total grip on this to make it a circular economy model, governance, local collaboration, housing. They're building a lot of affordable housing for inhabitants, supply, circular food production. Food is here also, as always. Habitat, work with the city, with the village, public spaces and local culture, and also with the digitalization, which now we have much more confidence how to work digitally, and it's made it much easier for city people to move to small places and still work. You can live here in small villages, but you have your work in Stockholm, in our main city, for example. So it's a lot of things happening. It's a lot of things we have to think of. And I agree that remember the future is a great theme. And I think we have to look forward, we have to look back. But to have it right, we have to do a lot of thinking now. And your great conference is one of the thinking. Okay, thank you. And now I will end my presentation.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you once again for many ideas and experiences shared with us. And from Sweden back to Italy, back to our almost twin, the city of Alba. Emanuele Bolla, Municipal Councillor for Tourism and UNESCO Creative Cities, a good friend, will talk us about gastronomy as a driver of touristic development. Gastronomy, we love it.
Well, thank you very much, Claudio. I'm very honored to be in this international summit with you all. Also on behalf of our mayor, Carlo Bo, I want to thank the mayor, Giorgio Gori, for inviting us, and also the mayor, Federico Pizzarotti, which was here with us yesterday for the signing of the agreement to create the National District of Gastronomy, the Italian National District of Gastronomy, because as Professor Magda Antonioli said, it's very important that we use this network properly to, set up a relationship and to share things. So that's what we tried to do yesterday. That's what we did in the past months. So it's really interesting and important to us to be here with you at this international summit. Well, I'm very honored to be here. There was an amazing list of speeches made by great speakers, so I kind of feel like I know what I'm supposed to do. I just want to make it interesting, and I don't know if I will be able to, but I try. At least I will be brief. Remember the future. I think that remember, so who we were, who we used to be, and the future, who we want to be. In between the remember and the future, we have who we are now. So the culture. The fil rouge that links the remembering and the future. So I think that it's not just something intangible, the culture. It's sometimes you can touch it, sometimes you can smell it, sometimes you can taste it, like your cheese, amazing. Sometimes you can listen to it, music. Sometimes you can just, feel that it's there. White truffle now because it's not raining. But yeah, I think that our network will help us pass on the culture, because I think that's the most important thing that we need to focus on. Pass it to the new generations just to keep it, and also pass it on an international level to have people come to Alba, to Bergamo, to Parma, to all the gastronomy city that we saw before, because we need and we definitely have to transform gastronomy into a tool to attract people to our communities. And I think that the network gives us all the tools that we need. We have music. In the Langhe, in Barolo, in Alba, we have Collisioni Agri-Rock Festival. This festival, amazing. This year we had Zucchero. We had amazing singers, and this helped us talk about our gastronomy on a national and international level. Media arts, we can use internet, we can use videos to pass on the culture. Literature, I will go on that later. Film, movies, we have documentaries that talk about Italy, that talk about food. We have an amazing documentary that talk about the truffle hunting tradition. Design, we have amazing objects that are designed to shape truffles. Craft and folk arts, that's what we do. Traditional events to promote gastronomy. And back to literature, we have Beppe Fenoglio, an amazing writer from our city. And Fenoglio helps us understand how you can go to Malora, from Malora to Unesco. Malora, it's an interesting word. It comes from malheur. Malheur, it's the Piedmont, the dialect word for bad luck. That's what we were. We were bad luck. Now we're Unesco in Alba. We transformed problems into solutions and into assets to keep and to help our community grow. And we have to say thanks to some amazing entrepreneurs, some amazing visionaries that helped us doing this. I think about Michele Ferrero, an amazing person, an amazing entrepreneur that had the vision to understand that we don't have the workers to come to Alba, we have to have the workers stay in the country yards, to be there, live there, and he brought them in Alba to the factory through a free system of private transportation. That was amazing because this helped us, helped the city when Ferrero boomed, not to grow too fast, and we kept the small villages alive. Now those villages are the villages of Barolo, La Morra, Monforte, amazing places where we have vineyards recognized as UNESCO World Heritage. But back then, back in the days, those were the Malora places. And now we have those places properly conducted by an amazing agricultural tradition, thanks to Ferrero, because we kept the people there. They kept the vineyards in the free time after working in the industry. So that's what helped us, you know, going from there to where we are now. And also, I think that one of the most important things that we have to work is the gastronomic tourism, because we have to be aware that the gastronomic tourism is not just about eating good food. Mm-hmm. It's also the culture that is back there, because as we like to say, a bottle of Barolo wine, it's great in the Fifth Avenue, it's great in a fancy Japanese restaurant, it's great in South America, wherever you can find it, it's great. But why it's greater in Alba, in Barolo? Because there you can find the vineyards, there you can find the people that makes the wine. Maybe you can go harvest with them, you can do the experience. So that's what transforms a wine into a gastronomic and a touristic destination. The same thing with truffle. You can find good truffle also out of Alba. It's not that it's not just there. Obviously ours is better, but you know. But what's great about white truffle in Alba is that you can experience the truffle, you know, tasting the smell of truffle. You can taste it in a scientific way. We have classes to teach you how to do that. And also you can do the truffle hunting experience. What's greater than go with a truffle hunter in the woods during the night and find a treasure that transform our gastronomy in something amazing. So that's what we do. We transform food into experience through culture. And I think that what's amazing about our network is that we have the chance to share this and to find new ways to use this product in a proper way on a cultural level. It's all about the communication. I was very honored to be here with you yesterday. We did an amazing tasting of cheeses, but it was not just about the cheese. It was about the story, the people, the hands, the animals, and the places. And since I came here for a work trip, I definitely want to say that I will come back as a tourist, because I found out that I found that. I will bring my girlfriend in a private visit, and we will be gastronomic tourists, because Bergamo it will be an amazing gastronomic destination, and we will be there with you, with the district, and also I think that with the international community of the cities of gastronomy. So thank you very much for your invitation, and I want to also say thank you and congratulate the team of Forme and the team of Bergamo Città Creativa for doing this amazing work, setting up this international summit, and with such a great speeches and also in a very nice way. So thank you very much. I hope that you will excuse me, but we have to go back to Alba because we have the Turkish town of Hatay that just arrived in this moment. So I have to go back there and welcome them and bring them truffle hunting tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emanuele. Hope to see you soon in Alba as well. And now we are going to South America, to the city of gastronomy of Cochabamba. Mariela Jimenez Cardona, Juan Carlos Sabac Soria, Carlos Enrique Tinoco. Are you with us? Ready to talk about ancestral knowledge and flavors of Cochabamba in our future. And I'm really happy that you are with us, because Cochabamba and Bergamo are twinned cities since many years ago, and it's the first time that we work together about gastronomy. Hi.
Hello, thank you very much. We are very content to be here, and thank you so much for this opportunity for us to talk about our city, Cochabamba in Bolivia. So, we are going to have 3 speakers today. My name is Carlos Tinoco from the Department of International Relations. To begin, our municipal secretary is going to begin by giving an introduction of our city. And that is going to be followed by a video of our city as well, in which we're going to be able to see some visuals, our main dishes here in the city, gastronomy. And then after the video, our focal point is going to be the final speaker, who's going to give some final comments as well. So once again, thank you very much. And now our municipal secretary is going to give some few words in the introduction, which will be translated by me. And we're going to begin right now. Okay.
Buenos días y buenas tardes, según corresponda por el horario que tenemos en los diferentes países.
Good morning and good afternoon as corresponds due to the time zones that we have in our respective countries.
Soy Mariela Jiménez Cardona, secretaria de Desarrollo Productivo, Turismo y Cultura de la Alcaldía de Cochabamba.
My name is Mariela Jiménez. I'm the Municipal Secretary of Productive Development, Tourism and Culture of the City Hall in Cochabamba.
La ciudad de Cochabamba destaca por la amplia variedad gastronómica que tiene para ofrecer.
The city of Cochabamba stands out.
Que por ello es declarada como capital gastronómica de Bolivia mediante una ley a nivel nacional.
Which is why it was declared as a gastronomic capital of Bolivia through a national law.
Y de igual manera, el 2017, la Alcaldía de Cochabamba, de manera conjunta con el sector privado,
and in the same way, in 2017, the Mayor's Office of Cochabamba, together with the private sector,
trabaja la documentación respectiva para postular como una ciudad creativa en gastronomía de la Unesco.
applied to become a UNESCO Creative City in Gastronomy.
Al cumplir con los requisitos, nuestra Cochabamba recibe este importante nombramiento y forma parte de la red de ciudades creativas.
Complying with the requirements, our Cochabamba receives this important appointment and is part of the Creative Cities Network.
Ante eso, diseña un plan de acción que tiene como objetivo estimular el desarrollo del sector gastronómico a nivel municipal.
And as a result, designs an action plan that aims to stimulate the development of the gastronomic sector at the municipal level.
Porque es importante mencionar que este tipo de nombramientos ayudan a trabajar en el desarrollo productivo de una ciudad.
Because it is important to mention that this type of appointments help to work in the productive development of a city,
siempre y cuando exista un trabajo conjunto entre el sector público y privado.
as long as there is a joint effort between the public and private sectors.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. We will now request for the video to be played, please, which will show a lot of videos, and the speaker will be myself in the video. Hello, my name is Carlos Tinoco from the Department of International and Institutional Relations. After what was clearly mentioned by the Municipal Secretary, Ms. Mariela Jimenez, I will now go on to develop the following specific points in the presentation. First of all, I'm going to talk about the 6 pillars to consolidate the designation of Cochabamba as a gastronomic city. Then I'm going to talk about the steps taken by the municipality to strengthen the programs of the gastronomic sector. And lastly, I'm going to talk about the creation of the close ties of the municipality with other gastronomic cities. As part of a creative cities network, it is important to work around specific planning. In this case, an action plan was drawn up consisting of 6 pillars that seek to consolidate the appointment. These pillars are the following: reevaluation of the gastronomic heritage, encourage creative artistic entrepreneurship in gastronomy, infrastructure for the identity and development of a cluster, International Festival of Typical and Traditional Cuisine, International Gastronomic Business Conference, and sister city agreements with Unesco creative cities. Around this planning, Cochabamba outlines general and specific objectives, which are being worked on and fulfilled since the appointment. From the generation of documentation, such as books, touristic gastronomic guides, digital guides, to safeguard the local gastronomic heritage, to the organization of different workshops, talks, and gastronomic forums, and promoting the academic development of the gastronomic sector. Similarly, the Mayor's Office of Cochabamba allocates a budget for the development and execution of training and strengthening programs for the gastronomic and productive sector. Among these programs are the following: training service for women entrepreneurs, technical training service for young high school graduates, training service and technical assistance in the manufacture of dairy products and derivatives, training and assistance service in raising small animals, training service and technical assistance in beekeeping production, and training service in urban gardens and vegetable production. The implementation of a physical space for a gastronomical museum was also contemplated through the generation of a project profile to be implemented in one of the Republican houses belonging to the municipality. As it is a creative city, it is important to generate activities that promote the promotion of local gastronomy, which is why, through the Cochabamba Gastronomic Integration Platform, it worked on the development of the International Gastronomic Festival of Cochabamba called Miski, which is a Quechua word whose meaning is sweet. It is a festival that takes into account the participation of different gastronomic sectors, from the caseritas, who are gastronomes of popular markets, to restaurant chains. It is a festival that even focuses on the academic part, with the participation of different universities and technological institutes. Cochabamba is a sister city of Bergamo and is currently in the process of signing agreements with other creative cities, such as the city of Puerto Viejo in the Republic of Ecuador, and the city of Denia in the Kingdom of Spain. This with the aim of strengthening the network and reach of our city in international markets. To conclude, it is important to emphasize the gastronomic and productive development that this appointment brought, awakening to all Cochabamba and Bolivian citizens the true interest in knowing, respecting, and conserving their gastronomic heritage, so that this is a starting point for a gastronomic revaluation and innovation. It is an example that several creative cities that are a part of the Creative Cities Network are following. And that is very important because each region, each country has its own heritage and appointments of this nature, which strengthen and help the productive development of its respective cities. Somos Cochabamba, we are Cochabamba. All right, thank you very much for playing our video. I hope you enjoyed it. And now we are going to have some words by our focal point here in Cochabamba, Bolivia, Juan Carlos Sabag, which will be translated by myself as well. Okay.
Muy buenos días, buenas tardes. Como miembros de la red de ciudades creativas, es importante planificar el desarrollo de la gastronomía sostenible, lo que es en nuestra ciudad.
Good morning and good afternoon. As members of the Creative Cities Network, it is important to plan for the sustainable development of local gastronomy.
Esto fomentando al desarrollo académico de la gastronomía, estableciendo emprendimientos gastronómicos que cumplen con estándares de calidad, lo que es a nivel internacional.
Promoting academic development and establishing gastronomic ventures that meet international quality standards.
Y sobre todo el establecimiento de convenios con otras ciudades que pertenecen a esta misma red.
And above all, establishing agreements with other cities that also belong to the Creative Cities Network.
Cochabamba es una ciudad que forma parte de esta red desde el 2017 y hasta la fecha ha podido establecer convenios con las ciudades de Portoviejo, Ecuador, de igual manera con Denia, España, y actualmente tiene un relacionamiento directo con varias de las ciudades gastronómicas pertenecientes a Latinoamérica.
Cochabamba is a city that has been part of this network since 2017. And to date, it has been able to establish agreements with the cities of Puerto Viejo, Ecuador, and Denia, Spain. It currently has a direct relationship with the gastronomic cities belonging to Latin America.
Depende de todos nosotros establecer los lineamientos para trabajar en la reactivación económica de todo el sector gastronómico de nuestras ciudades. Y depende de nosotros internacionalizar nuestro patrimonio gastronómico.
It is up to all of us to establish guidelines to work on the economic reactivation of the entire gastronomic sector in our cities. And it is up to us to internationalize our gastronomic heritage.
Y de esta manera me despido. Mi nombre es Juan Carlos Sabac, soy el punto focal de Cochabamba. Muy contento de que mi Cochabamba esté participando en esta actividad tan importante que busca fortalecer el desarrollo de todas las ciudades creativas en gastronomía.
And in this sense, I say farewell, I say goodbye. My name is Juan Carlos Sabag, and I am the focal point here in Cochabamba, Bolivia. Once again, we are very happy and content to be given this opportunity to be able to talk about our city here. Thank you very much.
Gracias.
Right, so that would finalize the presentation. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Carlos Enrique. And going back once again to Italy, now it's Milano. We are hosting a city of literature because we think that the themes that we are talking about during this afternoon are of great interest for all the clusters of the UCCN network. So, Paola Manara, manager of Library and Cultural Department of the Municipality of Milan, is with us, and you will talk about stories, projects, and actions. Very interesting stories, actions, projects. So, about the past, about the present, and about the future by the Municipality of Milano's library system. So we are really interested in listening to you, Paola. Oh, perfetto, ti sentiamo.
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to you all. I would like to thank Bergamo for granting me this opportunity. I'm not actually tuned with all of you, but I'll try and improve my tune to tune better. If I say Milan, not everybody thinks of literature. We think of fashion, finance, design, but don't say this to Turin, which is famous for literature. And so this might sound weird, but if we think of it, Milan has always been a city of literature, if not because it is home of many publishing houses. Since the very beginning of the 19th century, it has been the capital capital of literature since then. Leopardi himself, a national poet, came to Milan to publish his first sonnets, or let's think of great writers that we managed to appreciate, and the publishing homes of Feltrinelli, Mondadori. Hopefully they all were based in Milan. And this is part of Milan tradition and its history. This is the history through which we presented our candidacy as the city of literature, being so strong in the publishing industry, forced us to apply as a city that wants to state this very key role with respect to literature. Since 2015, with Expo Milan, we've worked on the development of different stages and steps. The first one was the signing of the Covenant for Reading. 2016, it was defined as the Milan Reading City, and 2017 marks the date when we applied to Unesco to become the City of Literature. What does this entail? It entails a present that is intertwined with this past, a present that is made up by different projects over the past 4 years. We have organized them and managed more than 40 projects. And these projects are cross-sectional to the city demand. And to what the city can offer, both from a cultural and a logistical perspective. We try and leverage on city resources, private, public partners, local partners. Unfortunately, we cannot hear the lady. There is something wrong with her microphone. Okay, now it is working. In Milan, there are bookstores, newsstands, libraries, and we decided to map this aspect. If we know what we have, we also know how we can offer we know what to offer the city. We know what we can offer the Milanese. And then we have accessibility. This is granted to people who are visually impaired, who have a disability. We also have projects with the prison system, and this is even more difficult because different languages are spoken in jails, in prisons, and therefore we have to cater for all these needs. The other guideline that we followed is what we defined libraries outside the boundaries, physical boundaries of libraries, by using the so-called cargo bike, organizing libraries in parks, in condos, so that the library, which is a closed system, sometimes a daunting system because of this, is seen in a different manner. A very important project that we are currently carrying out
intese come biblioteca fuori dai confini, è la biblioteca di
is
condominio.
the
La biblioteca di
Condo
condominio è una realtà
Library.
tutta italiana che si sta
This is a
sviluppando a
very
Milano. Abbiamo già
Italian project.
18 biblioteche, una realtà
There are already
spontanea
18
che
libraries in 18
vede dei
condos.
singoli condomini,
So the
soprattutto nelle
individual
aree più popolose e più periferiche della
condominiums
città,
in the mostly
allestire
populated
delle piccole
areas of the
biblioteche,
cities
spazi comuni
have
dove possono essere
staged
letti sotto librerie.
libraries
Ecco, per questo progetto,
in
per il quale
common
abbiamo avuto anche un
spaces.
finanziamento dalla
We
Fondazione
got
Cariplo,
a
siamo
fund
in contatto con
from the
tantissime
Cariplo
realtà
Foundation for this
cittadine,
project.
perché abbiamo dovuto contattare sia le istituzioni
In order to
dello
carry out this
stesso Comune
project,
di Milano, quale il settore casa, il settore
we contacted different
periferie,
departments of the
facciamo un lavoro
municipality.
di supporto a questa attività, proponendo a queste realtà spontanee una serie di, possiamo dire, aiuti.
And
Quindi
we
un
provided
catalogo,
instruments
anche di
to these
intrattenimento
libraries, so
alla
a
presentazione dei
catalog
libri,
of
di metterli in
books,
contatto con gli editori, quindi tutta con le
shows,
librerie, con gli editori, tutta un'attività di diciamo per favorire questo nostro mondo delle biblioteche, che è un mondo molto molto più esteso di quanto uno
and
possa
this
credere.
to foster the
Ancora
world of
altri
libraries.
nell'ambito della promozione della
Other
lettura, questo è
projects
diciamo più
are
normale per il mondo delle
to
biblioteche,
foster
il mondo della
reading,
letteratura.
and this is a standard project
Cito però
for any
tra tutti
library.
il progetto Milano da leggere, che è un progetto
One
che
very interesting project is the
tra l'altro abbiamo
so-called
già in essere da
Milano
parecchi
da
anni, che sta
leggere,
riscuotendo un grandissimo successo e che è in
Reading
cooperazione
Milan,
con
in collaboration
la TN,
with
la
the
nostra
Milan
linea, la
Public
nostra
Transportation
rete
Board
di trasporto pubblico
or
locale,
network.
che ci ha supportato fin dalla prima edizione.
They've been supporting us since the
Vi
very
spiego
edition
brevemente,
of
si
this
tratta di un
project. This
progetto
is
che
a
prevede
project
per 2
whereby
mesi l'anno
for 2
la
months every
presenza in
year
città di manifesti attraverso i quali con un
there
QR
are
code è possibile scaricare
billboards
10 libri.
scattered in the
Questi
city,
libri
and
hanno in genere
through
una
a QR
tematica che
code
li
you
vede a
can
Milano.
download
Negli ultimi
10
anni,
books
per
on
esempio, quest'anno abbiamo
Milan.
fatto il giallo,
For
quindi
instance,
dovrebbe essere un giallo ambientato a
this
Milano, con
year
un
it
autore
was
milanese. L'anno
for
precedente
thrillers.
avevamo
The
fatto
thriller has to be
dei
set
comics,
staged in
quindi
Milan.
fumetti.
Last year it
Abbiamo fatto
was
un anno
Milan
anche
in
con le
comics,
ricette,
and also
i
one
libri
year
che
we
portavano ricette
focused on
milanesi ed ha avuto
books
moltissimo
with
successo.
recipes from Milan Gastronomy.
Quindi
Were very
diciamo, un
successful.
diffondere il piacere della
So we
lettura
disseminated the
attraverso
pleasure
chiaramente la
of
lettura di
reading
ebook,
through
gratuitamente
the
in
ebook
cooperazione,
reading,
ripeto,
free
con
of
il
charge,
servizio
in
di trasporto pubblico locale
collaboration
che ci dà gli
with the
spazi
Milan
per
Public
questa
Transportation Network that allows
forma
us to
di
have the
insomma,
advertising
promozione,
spaces
ma
where
anche
we
con gli
fix
editori
our
che per 2 mesi
billboards.
ci mettono a disposizione senza alcun canone di diritti i loro materiali.
This is a
Altra
very
diciamo,
interesting
linea
project.
di, lavoro rispetto alla promozione della lettura è chiaramente lo scambio professionale.
And also
Lo scambio professionale
we
che
work
abbiamo
through
con
professional exchanges
moltissime città creative, chiaramente,
with many
soprattutto della
creative
letteratura, sia all'interno quindi di Unesco sia al di
for
fuori,
literature,
ma
both
che
within
abbiamo avuto
UNESCO and
ultimamente,
outside
in particolare con le
UNESCO.
professioni del libro, abbiamo cercato in qualche modo di uscire un po' dagli schemi degli scambi professionali
We
intesi come
tried to
scrittore,
move
traduttore,
outside the
invitando
scenario of
invece,
professional
per esempio, un
exchanges
libraio,
by
una libraia di
inviting
Barcellona
maybe
che è andata a Milano e ha
book
incontrato i
store
librai
owners.
milanesi per capire
There
le
was one
differenze
coming from
e
Barcelona
i
and
punti di
met
contatto per
Milanese
le attività professionali
bookstore
che possono
owners
riguardare
to
questo
understand
tipo di
what exchanges
lo
could
scenario
be
internazionale è
established.
poi
The
costellato
international scenario is also characterized by international festivals such as Milan Book City, a festival that fills Milanese squares with readers, writers, publishing houses, representatives. All these initiatives try and allow the population to appreciate reading more. The present also has to do with the pandemic. The pandemic, which has enhanced interest in reading, because we were forced at home because of lockdowns, so we rediscovered reading as a leisure moment, given all the problems we had to face with the pandemic. And as libraries, we also got the opportunity to provide services that were not available before. These were services being provided to the elderly, so there was a delivery, home delivery of the books. So like a food delivery service, we did the same for books. Another interesting action that we carried out was collaboration with city newsstands and bookstores that distributed our books.
Media Library Online, che è un
sistema Media Library Online,
prestito attraverso una piattaforma, prestito di libri o consultazione di giornali attraverso una piattaforma così messa a disposizione dall'area biblioteche, e a Milano
digital platform,
da leggere ancora, come vi avevo detto, attraverso anche dei libri digitalizzati da noi e messi a disposizione in maniera fissa sulla piattaforma delle biblioteche, in quanto fuori diritto.
Free of charge on the
Qui vedete i numeri, purtroppo nel corso della pandemia nel 2021.
These are the figures in 2021. Unfortunately, you see that the number of downloads have doubled almost, because the pandemic, in a way, encouraged reading, which is not that easy in the frantic Milan.
Sentono di avere tutto questo tempo per leggere. Cosa possiamo dire ancora?
What can we say else about our library system?
Una voce fuori dal coro. In realtà il futuro che Milano si pone è un futuro rispetto alle biblioteche come una grande rete
a future where public libraries can become a network through which to convey information on these new activities, on these new words that fill our life today, such as digital transition, a Green Deal, a 15-minute city, are all activities that require a commitment by private institutions, public institutions, local institutions. We cannot think of a digital translation unless we create networks, unless we had knowledgeable citizens in the digital field. So libraries are committing themselves to foster the access to these new digital solutions and tools by any citizen.
Molto da vicino, ma che fino a una...
Because digital transition is key, but we didn't even know what it meant 10 years ago. The 15-minute city
interessa soprattutto le grandi città, e 15 minuti,
which is particularly important for metropolitan cities. So all services should be made available to citizens in a 15-minute time lag.
servizi a 15 minuti vuol dire mettere...
To organize a 15-minute city means to be creative in the delivery of these services, because we cannot set up new libraries overnight.
Quindi dobbiamo inventarci degli servizi
we must
che possano aiutare,
develop new services that can help citizens to find what they are looking for,
una modalità diversa da quello
but in a different manner than the library.
Vorrei concludere con una domanda.
And I have a question in closing.
Cosa pensate possa centrare una città della letteratura con un...
What has a city of literature to do with this very interesting and challenging meeting on gastronomy? Well, the answer is it has a lot to do with gastronomic cities, because we are specifically interested in training, in raising activities. Sorry, if citizens order food, eat this food, we must be aware of what we eat. And the same is true for reading. If you read, you are more knowledgeable, more aware.
In ogni caso, sicuramente aiuta il cittadino a fare delle scelte.
Citizens who can take better decisions also in the food that they eat. I like this slide
In evidenza
because it highlights how important the role of librarians is.
in evidenza che
It emphasizes that
tutto quello che in questo periodo ci gira attorno, la conoscenza, le motivazioni,
diversity, knowledge
possono essere veicolate in un modo più consapevole.
Can be conveyed
L'avvicinamento alla biblioteca del quartiere piuttosto che a delle
libraries,
mi è piaciuto
through cultural institutions. I appreciated my Swedish colleague presentation because he hinted at this, and I close.
Un intervento tenuto da Laura Galli, che è una docente
by quoting Laura Galli.
2015.
She's a professor at Bologna University. Laura Galli is a food expert.
All'Università di Bologna aveva aperto in quei...
At the University of Bologna in 2015, she had organized
tematiche di
a master on Expo 2015 themes.
Si è sempre più consapevoli.
In the modern era, we have become aware of the link between food and knowledge. To eat is not just nutrition, but it is a way to know raw materials being used, feeling the quality, and education in taste. In food, you can create identities. Through food, there is a meeting amongst different cultures that can establish a dialogue to interact. I believe this is a moment which is very important both for culture, books, and food. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So interesting sharing different points of view in our clusters and discovering that we can work together very, very well about same goals. Last trip to the to America, San Antonio, Arisa Larios, Special Projects Manager, UCCN Gastronomy, World Heritage Office, City of San Antonio. We are so happy that you are with us this afternoon. Is already afternoon in San Antonio, or is still morning? Here in Italy, it's late afternoon, still morning. So you had
morning. Good morning.
you had breakfast, but not lunch yet. I hope that you are enjoying this summit. We are really curious about the topic of harvesting from our history to our future. Very, very suggestive.
Yes, thank you for having us and extending this invitation. It's been great hearing all the other city initiatives, and we are excited just to highlight one aspect of how we are embracing how our history from the harvesting perspective is still being used today, and how it will continue to be used in the future. So let me share my screen.
Oh, let's try. We succeeded many times today.
You're able to see my PowerPoint?
You just have to enlarge it, because you are sharing it. Okay, that's perfect. That's perfect, Arisa.
All right. So, again, my name is Arisa Larios. I'm the Special Projects Manager. I work with Colleen Swain, who is our focal point for the Creative City of Gastronomy, San Antonio. San Antonio got designated in 2017, and we are the second U.S. city to be designated as a city of gastronomy. This designation is managed by our World Heritage Office and is intended to spur innovation, creating new traditions and fostering sustainable practices in production and distribution. So again, today I will highlight how one initiative we are working on in highlighting in our community is how our history is being used still today. So just a little bit about San Antonio. It is the 7th largest city in the US and 2nd in Texas. It's a confluence of cultural influences beginning with their interweaving of indigenous and Spanish heritage. Our population is growing very rapidly. We have 1.5 million, and that's expected to double by 2040. Our population is mostly Hispanic and Latinx. And it is home to the only World Heritage site in Texas, and visited by almost over 37 million tourists annually. To give you some geographical perspective, you can see San Antonio here. It is relatively flat with rolling hills. We have a small hill country that we like to refer to, and has wide river plains. So you can see, particularly with San Antonio, heritage has evolved our history and crossroads through our San Antonio River, which has thrived through European travelers entering South and Central Texas in the late 1500s. It wasn't until the 1700s that they decided to settle here. Part of our designation is compromised through an advisory board. So we do have a mission and vision, which is meant to strengthen our culinary legacy as a confluence of cultures, and also to lead globally in equity, resilience, and sustainability, and it's recognized as a distinct cultural experience. So now, just to kind of go over a little bit about our history, the San Antonio mission. So 13,000 years ago, indigenous people drawn from our river foraged roots, harvested pecans, mesquite beans, and hunted game. The same river in the 1700s brought Spanish colonists who introduced new traditions and tastes, bringing in their own mix of influence from North Africa and other cultures. The San Antonio's missions included farmlands, cattle grounds, residents, churches, hills, water distribution systems, which we'll touch on, our SAPS. These can be seen as examples of interweaving of cultures that we still see today in our architectural landscape and our food. And this confluence of cultures continues in San Antonio after the missions, with other new flavors, spices, and ingredients from Europe, Asia, and Africa that came from European settlers in the 1800s, along with the new culinary techniques to create complex fusions of unique flavors and characteristics that make San Antonio's cuisine so unique than any other region in the US. And it is our gastronomic heritage that reflects the diversity of the people of San Antonio who live here and the ones that continue to call San Antonio home. So as you can see in the slide, these are our missions, starting with the Alamo, which is kind of designated globally, but also Mission San Jose, Mission Concepcion, Mission Espada, and Mission San Juan. So relatively, these are very close together, relatively a 3-mile distance, with the exception of the Alamo being a little bit further off. But it's Mission San Juan that still remains to have the farm. All missions had ranches and farms to feed their inhabitants, but Mission San Juan was restored through a unique partnership today. One of the most significant accomplishments of the Spanish colonial residents of San Antonio was their construction of a complex and expansive irrigation system comprising of dams, gates, and irrigation canals. Today, these systems, known as acequias, enable the missions to thrive and determine settler patterns. Their placement also influenced the development and other infrastructures, such as our historic roadways, which often followed their wandering paths and affected the lifestyle of the community into the 20th century, providing agricultural and landscape irrigation. You can see the photo here is a photo of our San Antonio River and our acequia right next to our mission, Mission San Juan. And now for our future. As we see how our indigenous people who built, inhabited, and farmed the mission are continuing their traditions. Organizations like the American Indians in Texas and the Spanish colonial missions have been here prior to the pandemic, conducting tours, sharing with visitors what would have been eaten and how it has evolved over time. And this is a photo of our American Indians in Texas Spanish colonial group. Here's a little bit deeper look into the structure of the acequias. The structure is mostly made of large river cobblestones and mortar of lime and sediment rock, which forms a primitive concrete. The northern portion of the acequia, which flows from the east side of the river, flows directly into the missions and was restored and reopened in 2011. Today, visitation to the historic missions has increased since the designation by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site in 2015. Attention to detail, programming, and management has also increased for the park services, as well as the City of San Antonio, which is currently implementing a work plan to restore its growth, preservation in the south side as developers eyes property moving into the Mission Historic District. So this is the picture here shows visitors showing how the acequias are providing irrigation to our farm. The tie from, Our San Antonio Food Bank has an agreement with our National Park Service to manage 50 acres of farmland. 5 of those acres act as a historic demonstration garden to educate mission visitors and show the irrigation from 300-year-old acequia. Replicating the traditional farming methods of the mission inhabitants is used with the help of some local chefs. Heritage crops of squash and corn are being planted and harvested today. Each mission site had a farm, but San Juan is again the only one that remains. The picture shown was in 2019, pre-pandemic. that showed hundreds of volunteers that came out to Mission San Juan to harvest a cabbage crop with the San Antonio Food Bank on a Saturday morning. It was the largest one-day harvest from the food bank's history. Nearly 400 volunteers came and joined, with over 100,000 pounds of cabbage was harvested and distributed to families in need and to chefs for crewmen. This tie from the World Heritage to our gastronomy is one of the reasons in 2017 San Antonio became a city of gastronomy through the Creative City Network. The food bank is working out the details around creating a harvesting event for San Antonio chefs, restaurants, and hotel staff to participate in a farm-to-table procurement showcasing their harvest in their dish. The photo here shows it from Mission San Juan Farm and two of our chef ambassadors, Kelly Dottie and Chef John Brand, who will be arriving in Alba, Italy in the upcoming weeks to showcase their recipe, which includes recipes or ingredients inspired by Mission San Juan Farm, which includes Mustang grapes, our pecans, and other South Texas quail to make it unique in Alba. And I would like to show a video to kind of recapture all of San Antonio's gastronomy in a short video, if that could be played. And that concludes my presentation, but I again want to thank you all for extending the invitation to us. We are excited to be working on many initiatives that highlight our food system and food insecurity, as mentioned in many of the other previous presentations. We are wrapping up our membership monitoring report that will highlight all the work we've done in the last 4 years, so I encourage you to look at that. And yeah, we'll love to talk more about our local food system summit that was mentioned earlier in the discussion as well. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Arisa. And now, before listening to the contribution of Bergamo of this summit, I have the pleasure to host with us Roberta Garibaldi, the brand new CEO of ENIT, National Tourism Agency, that knows very well the importance of a gastronomy for tourism, for discovering the culture of a country, because you studied a lot and worked a lot about these themes. So it's really, really great pleasure that you are with us almost tonight, because we started some hours ago and we are going towards the night.
Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be here. And yes, it's a lot of years that I study, and I'm a professor in university, and then I do research related to food and wine tourism, and year after year we measure the increase of interest related to gastronomy in tourism. And so, for example, in Italy, we saw the 21% of Italians that did a tour with this main purpose in 2016, and in 2021 we are at more than 50% of the tourists. And then I am in the board of directors too of the World Food Travel Association, and so we check the situation around the world, and we see that this happen in a lot of countries. And we saw a change in the tourist after COVID, and we analyzed that the tourist now is more demanding relating to all the items that he used to choose the destination. And at the first place we find the landscape, and then the culture of the food of the area, and then the characteristic of the food. And so it's very important now to work on quality, because was not possible for us to travel for a lot of time, and now we want to travel, but we want to travel well from all of the different point of view. And then we saw every year we check what we call psycho-culinary profile, and then we saw an important change along the years. If 5 years ago the authentic was the most important profile, because now we have the innovative tourist. The tourists say they want to live related to gastronomy, experience in tourism, different kind of experiences and new kind of experiences. And at the second place, we found authenticity. Then it's very important now to offer new kind of experiences, but we have to find a good balance with authenticity. And so the challenge for the future will be to have this new balance, because the tourists now want to live something different, and then we have to create new experiences every 6 months, every year, because that is what the tourists want. And we saw the increase of relevance related to sustainability, related to the theme of wellness, of well-being, the food tourists that want to live new places, and for example, the theme of innovation we found in the choose of the accommodation, and the increase of relevance related to wine and food hotels, for example, related to glamping, tree hotels, room on the tree. And so the tourists love innovation from all the point of view. And the increase of relevance related to the bike and food, for example, we were around 19% of Italians that love to do that kind of experience 2 years ago, and now it's doubled. And so it's a very important trend now in Italy. And we are working in Italy on this topic, and we are working with in next months we'll work with the Italian regions, with the main association, with the main expert, because we are creating a strategic plan related to gastronomy and tourism, because it's a very important item for Italy. I think everybody, Italy is, when we, from different kind of research, it's one of the most important countries related to this topic. And so we have to define a new vision for mid-term. And so we'll start this work. We are starting this work, and I think we have finished it next spring.
Thank you, Roberta, for spending with us your time. We know that you are very, very busy, because you're really brand new CEO last week or something like that, and you accepted our invitation to share your knowledge about tourism. I think that the UCCN network can help studies about what you are talking about, because we can share unbelievable experiences. In this afternoon, we have been to Australia and with Bendigo, a few minutes ago in Texas with San Antonio. We've been to Sweden, to Brazil, to Bolivia, and last year we have been in Spain, and so many countries that can share knowledge and experiences about food, innovation, tourism, and the quality of life. So I think that we can work very well together. And we are closing our summit today with an interesting new experience. It's not so new for us that are living in Bergamo, but I think it's very brand new for our friends all over the world. It's an experience in the mountains about agriculture, about hosting people, about, I don't want to tell too much, because Chiara Tisat, project manager, LAG Valle Seriana dei Laghi Bergamaschi, is with us. I know that Roberta has to go working, even if it's late afternoon on Friday, but you are a successful woman, so you have to. Thank you for being with us, and then thank you, Roberta. Yes, you can leave me. And now, Chiara, Contrada Bricconi, perfect balance between old and new, past and future.
Yes, good afternoon or good evening. Thank you all for the invitation. My intervention will focus on a good practice that we can find in Bergamo and more precisely in Seriana Valley. So through this presentation, I will explain why Contrada Bricconi, a local farm born between the structures of a rural nucleus of the 5th century, is in fact an innovative reality which perfectly combines creativity, architectural valorization, landscape care, and entrepreneurial project. But first of all, who are we? Our LAG, acronym of Local Action Group, is a local development agency committed to promoting, encouraging and supporting processes of growth and the socio-economic improvement of a rural area. So our LAG includes 56 municipalities. It's particularly attentive to the environmental and cultural values of its area, and we manage projects and initiatives related to 3 dimensions that are agri-food production systems, landscape care and biodiversity, and sustainable tourism as well. And how and why we have identified Contrada Bricconi as a good practice. So our LAG is partner of an international project, JOIN, whose objective is to consolidate the process of innovation and valorization of local supply chains by encouraging dialogue between research, training, and rural businesses as well. So one of the activities, one of the actions that we have carried out within this project was the mapping of innovative companies. And of course, one of the innovative realities we have mapped was Contrada Bricconi indeed. And so what are the challenges that characterize our territory, Seriana Valley? Challenges that have found an excellent answer through the case proposed today that I will shortly explain more into detail. So we are faced the typical problems, the typical issues of a mountain area. So we have the population, abandonment of the traditional activities, so the cessation of agricultural and pastoral activities with the consequent loss of the productive potential of the land and of biodiversity. And we have as well the abandonment of historical buildings, so of villages with the consequent loss of material and immaterial cultural heritage, and the cessation of commercial activities and services. What is the creative response? So how was this project born? It was born from an intuition, the intuition of Giacomo Perletti, owner and ideator of this project, and his desire to communicate to the world the uniqueness of the agricultural work and of these mountains as well. So the project aims to bring back to life an authentic place, a place where cheese that tastes like cheese is produced, a place where labor of generations has generated a unique landscape, a unique knowledge, and a place where every activity is dance of willingness to share and to educate. And we can find there are two elements that are considered to be essential for the success of a rural entrepreneurial project like this. So the first one is human capital. Indeed, time devoted to training, to education, to explore other territories, other realities has been crucial. One example is the dryer in 2 stages, a practice which Contrada Bricconi has adopted, of course, a practice that comes from Trentino Alto Adige, and a practice concerning the production of hay. So using this dryer means depending less on weather conditions and thus improving the final quality of our product. And moreover, the involvement of high-level professionals has been fundamental. Indeed, 3 young graduates, today architects, have taken up the challenge of imagining the restructuring, the renovation of this settlement for agritourism purposes, and the introduction into this context of 2 new buildings for agricultural production. So the second element is stakeholders engagement. So the project has seen the collaboration and participation of different types of stakeholders. We have Valzurio, the municipality, which is the owner of the property and which has entered into a 40-year agreement with Giacomo. And we have to say as well that Valzurio has always participated in the cost of restructuring of these historical buildings. Then we have Orobie Bergamasche Park, which proposed and decided to use one of these buildings as a park center, supporting the renovation costs. And finally, we have the university, more related to a project called Arco Orobie, a project promoted by the park, by the University of the Mountain, delegation of University of Milan, and with the economic support of Cariplo Foundation. The project intends to intervene on some historical buildings which are representative of mountain architecture and in a logic of programmed and integrated maintenance, and thus this project supported the renovation of part of this settlement. So, as we have already seen, heritage and traditions are at the center of this project. The historical buildings were part of a township which until post-war period had 70 inhabitants, and now these buildings have been converted into scattered hotel, park center and restaurant. And production needs have been necessary to add 2 new volumes, 2 new buildings as a stable and dairy. And thus, these buildings now present elements which belong to the construction tradition of mixed walls. In fact, in the Alpine valleys, we can find today many examples of mixed masonry structures which combine stone and wood, a practice that was related to issues related to the use of space and to the availability of materials. So the project is very innovative, looks to the future, and what is innovation? So what do we mean by innovation? So I was inspired by the definition of the Agricultural European Innovation Partnership, which states that it is the introduction of something new which turns into an economic, social, or environmental benefit for rural practice. And so, what are the benefits that Contrada Bricconi brings to our territory? What are the positive externalities of this project? With regard to the economic benefit, we can find the creation of short supply chains and the creation of a conscious consumption model as an alternative to the globalized economy. We can find the use of new technologies and so the use of smart marketing techniques. And we have the reduction of production costs, not as a result of the increase of quantity, but on the other hand, as a result of the increase of quality and of a greater valorization of local products on the market. With regard to the environmental benefit, we have, of course, the recovery of land and of historical buildings. We have the adoption of environmental-friendly production methods and the use of new technologies not to overcome tradition, but to guarantee its future and contemporaneity. And finally, we have animal welfare. Animals are fed mostly by local hay and pastures, and the red cattle are of a grey alpine breed, a typical traditional breed of the Alps, and they are destined to meat production only in the old age. And concerning social benefits, we have the creation of supra-local projects. We have already seen it with the involvement of different stakeholders. We have the expansion of activities of services for a rural population, so the importance of the connection with the local community. The farm also participated to a tender in order to carry out some services for the municipality, Valzurio. And finally, we have the involvement of scholars and the expansion of the staff with young people who share the project and its lifestyle. Last thing I would like to notice is that Contrada Bricconi has also been able to seize the opportunities of the experience economy. So they offer educational experiences for young and adults. They will soon open the restaurant part in 2022, and in the meantime, they organize picnics based on products of their own production, and flagship of their products are, of course, their cheeses. And to conclude, I would like to say that I think this project is a very good practice. It's a very innovative and mostly replicable good practice, which combines a lot of important elements. We have seen them: creativity, architectural valorization, recovery of tradition, landscape care, and entrepreneurial project, of course. So my presentation ends here. Thank you again, and see you soon in Bergamo.
Thank you, Chiara. Really thank you. And it's been a great pleasure spending this afternoon, this morning, this night, this evening, all over the world, talking about Remember the Future. Just want to say two more things. Thanks so much to my wonderful Bergamo Creative City staff. Lucia, Maria, and Serse are here with us. And thank you to the wonderful technical team that allowed us to do everything during this afternoon. So you are great, really great guys. Thank you so much. And thank you to all the members of the UCCN that followed us more or less during the afternoon and that can watch this summit on YouTube, as everybody already knows. Thank you so much. See you next year in Bergamo. No, see you in a few weeks in Bergamo if you want. See you next year for the 3rd edition of the summit. Bye.